There are no shortcuts to building wealth today. It takes time, effort, sacrifice, and diversification. But today, diversification means something different than it did in the past. You deserve a more secure way to protect and grow your wealth. At Delta Harbour, we take this to heart. Our mission is to help by inviting you to add physical gold and silver to your wealth strategy. Book a free consultation today and let us show you how to protect and grow your wealth through the ownership of physical gold and silver. Let us show you the Delta difference. Hello, and welcome to Hard Money Sauga 960 and online, of course, youtube.com/Delta Harbour. If you want to reach out to Darren and the fellas, watch the past shows as well, these video casts. Phone number is always good, right? 1-888-335-8645, deltaharbor.com. Harbor with the U because it is all about you. We're talking precious metals, physical metals into your ever-growing portfolio. Well, maybe it's not ever-growing. Maybe it should be. And maybe we can remedy that situation with some hard metals. Reach out to the guys and the rest of the team and get educated on this very possibly for you lucrative endeavor into physical metals. We're not talking paper here. We're talking physical. But later on the show, we will drill down deeper into exactly what that means and how you can start attaining these metals that Darren has been such a fan for the last couple decades. But hard money episode today. It is a political debate, cons, libs, NDPers, and the rest of the fruit salad that was there. What does it mean for metals, Darren? How are you, pal? Before we get into today's topic of political leadership, I know you're champing at the bit to do that, and the impact on us Canadians. Let's talk about the week that was. Saw gold and silver do some humming and hawing through the week, but both look as they've stayed in, I don't know, good range as we tape here. I noticed gold is right around $1,800, while silver is sitting just about 24. Your favorite metal. What do you say about the markets this week, brother?
Well, I say people are talking, John. That's for sure. We saw gold hold up well in another couple of days where certainly there was some humming and hawing. As you said, the price fell a little bit below 1,800 and back above. And there is a concerted effort to try and keep gold below 1,800 for sure going on right now. I would assume most of our banks are shuddering at the thought of gold rising above 1,800, as are the federal banks, central banks around the world, because obviously they want their economies to be doing very well. And the fear of everything that's in front of us, from the debate last night that we're going to discuss a little on the show today, from the political race here in Canada and the new prime minister to be had soon, to the variants and the stress we're feeling around the world, to the geopolitical situations that have developed over the last short while with Afghanistan and others. These are all reasons to be well diversified. I think in this day and age, it's safe to say, John, you just don't take chances with your money. When it comes to it, be as well diversified as you can, and gold and silver are part of that. So I think the metals look great right now. I think we hit the bottoms during the summer doldrums, and as we move into today's show, we're going to talk about the first English debate last night, where the parties stand platform wise, and certainly congratulations to those, and an extended welcome aboard to Delta Harbour Assets for all of our new clients this week. We've got lots of updates, and we're going to discuss everything, including fantastic article, which is just a play on words more than anything, from a good colleague named Jeff Clark, who is a fantastic analyst in the metals market, later in the show, John, for sure.
Yeah, you did mention three debates. They're up, they're down now. The home stretch to the vote in a couple of weeks, unless you're going out early voting starting today. But three debates, two in French, one in English. It's all said and done. Want to talk a little bit about, spend some time helping listeners kind of decipher through what it meant for gold and silver moving forward, if whether one of these individuals is voted in, the current PM, or you choose someone else, how it means and what it means for a prime minister or a strong minority leader. So cut to the chase. I mean, everybody talks about it. It's never going to go away. And that would be the discussion of taxes, right?
Yeah, taxes is a good place to start, John, for sure. Yep. Let me make it clear. All three candidates for leadership of this country, and of course NDPers know they've got a very outside chance, but certainly with any luck their party is going to strengthen. But that being said, all three potential leaders would inherit a massive amount of debt, and a problem that can't be resolved in the next 4 years, no matter who it is. We could have a majority government tomorrow of Conservatives. They can't resolve the problem. So we're going to get a focus on debt, and this fixation, depending on the party, if it's liberal majority, certainly there'll be more spending. NDPers more spending. There's going to be heavily taxation coming towards the ultra wealthy with both liberals and NDPers. Don't think the Conservatives will focus so much on that, but they'll have no choice, all three parties, but to be more centrist. And they're going to have to raise taxes. There's no two ways about it. We are quickly becoming a second-rate G nation, and no party can effectively manage in a typical style of leadership or political philosophy that they are accustomed to in this situation. There is no room for it. It will be centrist government all the way, and most issues in a majority or a minority are going to revolve around resolutions to deal with these problems. And so as we go forward, I can't help but think this is reason number one to be owning gold and silver. So the Liberals are they're going to hit financial institutions. They talked about taxing financial institutions earning more than $1 billion with higher taxes. Again, the idea of tax the rich. They've introduced a minimum tax idea so that the top bracket pays a minimum, no matter what, of 15% or more. And again, the circumvention of taxation was discussed loosely, but their platform talks about hitting again, taxing the rich, closing loopholes, increased luxury taxes for the Liberals, digital services tax, 3% on revenue from Canadian users, i.e. Netflix and Disney, Spotify, which again increases the usage cost to every user, me, you, and everyone else who enjoys streaming. We get hit with another tax. Of course, taxes are going to come out the yin yang, and they're going to tax everything. But they're going to try to even the playing field by intervening in and eliminating the tax benefits of the hybrid mismatch arrangements of multinationals. They say it should generate up to almost $750 million, but it could result in lower innovation and investment in Canada. Again, these are positives for gold and silver. If uncertainty reign is the soup du jour, so to speak, John, then of course you got to add gold and silver. Now, if you look at the PCs, a different story here, right? If we look at the Conservatives, we look at giving Canadians a month-long holiday from GST once a year. Okay, big deal. Double the worker benefit to a max of 28 per person, more spending, change first-time tax penalties. So there are minor fines. Do we see an increase in corruption because of that? Nothing really concrete there. 5% tax credit for capital investments. Okay, good idea, not bad. Also, the idea of exempt stock options from being taxed for companies that have 2/3 Canadian employees might not help the average person. We don't know. So we'll have to see about where that goes. NDPs, tax the sale of homes to non-residents. Again, it's not going to fix housing. Still going to be a huge problem, but another new tax. Invest $100 million in the CRA. They talked about to enforce tax rules. All right, well, more bureaucracy. Probably end up just taxing the everyday Canadian that much further, that much harder. We're not trying to get away with things. We're just trying to live day to day 9 to 5s, and that's it. They're going to tax businesses that were innovative and found ways to make money during the pandemic. Brutal. That could be a 15% increase right there. Increase capital gains inclusion rate to 75%, boost the top tax rate to 35%. Again, tax the rich, luxury tax the rich. There's a list that goes on and on. NDPers tax the rich, Liberals tax the rich. That's where it's coming from.
Oh man, that was fun. Wow.
Not much fun there to be had, John, to be honest with you. I wasn't impressed with their platforms. I'm still not impressed. I know where I sit. I'm not going to bring it up today. I know where I would vote. I know what I want to do. I want more money in my pocket, and I want a better strategy going forward. Now we've given money to everyone under, the blue sky. And as they said last night in the debate, $400 and plus billion, and we're spending $425 million a day in the amount of tax that interest that we're paying out on the money owing. I mean, it's getting ridiculous, the point that nobody can comprehend it anymore, John. So we have to examine this further. You have to own gold and silver because it's the only true way to diversify. We'll spend more time talking about this in the next segment.
Yeah, I want to get into the economy and affordability in that regard as it relates to gold and silver, the physical metals. First, I've got to take a wee break. So I'll give you some time to make a phone call. At least jot down the number 1-888-335-8645. And online to deltaharbor.com. We'll continue just getting rolling on this edition of Hard Money right here on Sauga 960. And welcome back to Hard Money. Darren Long here once again. John Scholes. Want to reach out to Delta Harbour and investigate, learn, and begin expanding your portfolio of investments with hard metals, gold, and silver. How do you do it? Well, you make the phone call. It's a good way to get educated beyond listening to this show every week. 1-888-335-8645. DeltaHarbor.com. Harbor with the U. And to catch more of these video casts anytime, YouTube.com/Delta Harbor. They got their own channel. Subscribe and learn. Okay, so we talked a little bit about taxation with the three debates over. It's all downhill from here till the vote in a couple of weeks. Darren, let's talk about economy and affordability and how they relate to gold and silver. What do you say, pal?
Well, we're talking about economy and affordability. Again, not much in those platforms that I saw that I liked. There's bits and pieces to pick up on. Liberals are talking about raising the minimum wage. Again, an expenditure of sorts, certainly just to appease the younger voting crowd. Obviously, they take up the majority of those minimum wage jobs. There's talk about giving airlines $250 million. Again, more handouts. The discussion about the idea in the Liberal platform of allowing Canadian-controlled private firms to expense about $1.5 million worth of investments each year. And again, the overall effect being that there is a reduction of about $2.2 billion in incoming dollars, so less money for the government to pay off debt. If we go down to the Conservatives, 1 month dine and discover to pay 50% of bill at restaurants. Okay, funny concept, but again, they're scratching at whatever they can bring up ideas, throw them out there. Trying to sell themselves on the notion that they're better. Allow foreign telecoms to operate in Canada. My question is, how does that help Canadians? Their idea is make the oil pipeline construction a priority. Okay, I understand that. The trade-off is that, BC and the US don't want it. So how does that work? I mean, what is the clear path through it? And again, let me make it very clear. The debates taught me one thing, one major point that I walked away from that. They're all afraid to isolate specifics. Nobody would give specifics. And that's, for me, a problem, because you're going down a path of putting your trust into a party to vote for them, and they've got no specifics, right? There's really nothing that they would hammer down last night in that debate, and they danced around questions left and right. Although I thought O'Toole did a great job of being cool as a cucumber, and the leader from the Green Party looked a whole lot better than she did in the French debates. But that being said, the idea here is that all three parties on affordability and economy didn't come up with any concrete plan, John, that would really entice me to say, hey, you get my vote no matter what. I know where I'm going to vote, and I certainly won't make that public here, but ultimately, I want more money in my pocket. I want a wealth strategy that focuses on me having a better future, my family having a better future. I was not among the people that needed a handout during this very trying pandemic that continues to put a ton of pressure on our economy. But I think the Liberals overdid it. I think that they overspent, that they overreached, and that Trudeau used it as a leverage point to call an election, which wasn't necessary, as all of his colleagues pointed out last night at the debate. And this is the moment where, as Canadians, you need to define what is important to you. If your wealth is important to you, if you want a better future, you need to diversify. Do not leave all your dollars in paper investments and hope for the best, that tomorrow we wake up and all of a sudden everything just works itself out. You need to understand that there is no clear path to understanding who is going to pay for all of this spending. You can't continue to tax more and more and more, because eventually you get to the point where 6 out of every 10 cents you make is going to tax. 7 cents out of every 10 cents you make is going to tax. And this is already happening with housing. So the more expensive things get, the worse affordability gets. And I didn't see anything that would help me to steer clear of that issue. So when it comes to bullion, put it into your portfolio, get it in there, get home delivery, get storage, put it in your RSPs and TFSAs. Silver and gold make sense right now. We're going to spend some more time talking about that. But John, ultimately, this was not something that I got excited about, these debates.
Yeah, sometimes there's a little nugget in there you get excited about to sway you either way, but I agree there was nothing really here. It was just kind of milquetoast, the entire thing, all three debates, whether you can speak French or get the interpretation or not. Mm-hmm. But the upcoming vote and its impact on the markets of gold and silver. Now let's switch over. You mentioned the higher taxing of the rich and the big business. Yep. How's this going to affect small businesses like you and like me and everybody else?
And so as it relates to small business, it's really simple. we seem to be at a crossroads. GDP numbers were a big miss, and if we don't see growth here, we risk seeing 2 quarters of contraction, which again traditionally means recession. Now, I've seen nothing but positive talk about the economy. Analysts spouting that this post-COVID boom is going to be huge. We're going into a new economic cycle. We're going to see a huge boom in growth. I don't see it. We're too far gone, John. We're too far into debt. We have to cure the debt. It means higher taxes, less spending. It means less disposable income. Homes are not affordable. We can't deal with this problem unless we raise interest rates and stop this insanity of going higher. And we have a lot of problems to repair. So ultimately, as it relates to small businesses, Liberals, Conservatives, NDP, they didn't present anything that really spoke to me and said, hey, we're going to help out the little guy here. Liberals talked about 1.4 billion for in micro grants for small business technology needs. I like that, but that's more spending. I like the idea of making small businesses more efficient, more green, moving towards more self-sufficiency. I like the idea of increases to business loans for companies that can make it, that have something to offer. Not for every single business, but for those that are offering something, that are hiring employees, that are growing, or that are focused on doing good things for the economy, right? So there is more spending there. They talked about 146 million or so dollars more for training to women entrepreneurs and 51 million to fund Black entrepreneurs. These are great things. I love these ideas, but again, spending more money. How does any of this reduce our debt? And again, the balance is on them. The question is, what do they do? The Conservatives, again, they want to create job training fund for small businesses. How much? Didn't say. They want to rebuild Main Street businesses, loans up to $200,000 interest free and 25% forgiven depending on losses. 25% tax for Canadians who invest in small businesses, loans up to 200K. Again, lots of ideas, but nothing concrete. And NDP, I don't even want to go there. They should be the party for small business, but their ideas are just, for me, they're way out of control. So again, I say to this, yet another point, John, well, we should be owning gold and silver. We should be owning assets that are great in times of uncertainty, that when going forward, if we're looking at what we're hearing from these potential leaders and we're sensing that there's uncertainty, that there's no real sense of direction, that we're just throwing out anecdotes and not really getting down to find the fine details, we got to come up with a strategy that helps ourselves first. Listen, if the plane is falling, do you go and reach out and try to put an oxygen mask on 10 of your closest colleagues, or do you put yours on first in hopes that you can help everyone else? You know the answer. You always got to look out for yourself. And in this economy, you must have quality assets. John, you got to own gold and silver. We're going to talk more about it, why, in the next segment, but whether it's for home delivery, whether you want to store it with Delta Harbour, gold, silver, a combination of both metals, put it in your RSP, your TFSA, take advantage of it while you can, while these prices are still low.
And reach out to Darren and his team, Rob and Roy and the rest of the crew. They're very capable and willing to have a chat with you to get the ball rolling, educate you, and get some of these hard assets into your portfolio. But you can start with a phone call, simple, right? 1-888-335-8645, online to deltaharbor.com, Harbor with you, because this investment is all about you, of course. That, and you can follow us on the YouTube channel where we post these video casts as well, youtube.com/Delta Harbour. Lots more coming up, Darren. We're going to talk about deficits and debt. Fun stuff, but it's got to be said. It's got to be picked through, and we'll continue with that topic here on Hard Money after a short break on Sauga 960. Welcome back, Hard Money. Darren Long, John Scholes, your hosts here every week, reaching out to learn more, if not just to educate, dip your toe in the water of hard assets in the form of gold and silver. Really easy. 1-888-335-8645, deltaharbor.com. Worked together for a long time. Darren, want to talk a little about debt and deficit as well. Gone down that rabbit hole. The next 5 governments who might not be able to come back from this puppy. It's kind of an ugly painting, but how do we fix it? What about the debt? What do you think?
Well, you mistook the word death for deficit. And, whether it's debt,
a Freudian slip.
Deficit, yeah. Listen, you can't help the brain but thinking that it's associated in the same sense, right? In the same sentence, you would use the same word. Debt is death. It's perpetual. We can't cure it. It all comes down to how other countries look at us. As a G20 nation, one of the things I learned in debate last night is that most of the other candidates were picking on Trudeau, and rightfully so, because they believe our image has slipped. They believe that our brand as Canadians has gone downward under Liberal rule. And this is the largest debt in our nation's history. Again, we are on a new playing field, and this is a game to politicians. This is not real life to them. Remember, they're just spinning numbers. They're making decisions. They're getting the golden handshake to live a comfortable life. Not many politicians actually give a damn about you and I. And this is the truth, John. The ones I've spoken to at the local levels, they're very committed to doing their job. But again, I can't help but think when you're seeing the direction and you're seeing the kind of unbelievable, uncaring leadership that we've seen, there is a gap between what we think is supposed to happen and what is actually happening. And we have to cut expenditures. Nobody talked about this, right? Nobody wants to take the Mike Harris hardline, right? We can't be spending like drunken sailors like we're doing. We have to cut back. We have to cut programs. We have to cut, social welfare programs. We have to cut the safety net. We can't keep holding out our hands for everyone around us, especially for those that are working hard, John. People that are working 40, 50, 60-hour weeks just to pay the bills, to try and save up enough money to buy a house, found out 36 months later that now they got to save up 3-4 times as much. It's ridiculous. Well, who lives in this country? Who are these people buying homes at 1.2, 3, 4 million as their first house? I have no idea. And you said it before, but the reality is you can't keep rates as low as they are much longer without doing significant damage to the economy long term. Gold and silver have risen in both low interest rate environments as well as high interest rate environments. And I can show you the charts. It happens all the time. It's uncertainty. And so when we look at this as a whole, if there was to be complete stability in the marketplace and no speed bumps at all, then I'd be the first to say limit your ownership to the very minimum amount of things like gold and silver. You don't need to be as well diversified because your normal portfolio will look great. But when it comes to the debts and deficits, this is where their platforms lacked the most. If you go on and look anywhere, Maclean's had a great breakdown of all these various areas, and we drew from that as well as listening. There was a significant gap when it came to this section. The other sections had tons of anecdotes, ideas, some details on little programs, estimated savings, things of that, expenditures, but nothing when it came to debts and deficits. The Liberals, their idea was promise more. If they're elected, they'll use up half of the projected debt GDP savings, and their promises are enormous. That's going forward. So although they're looking to have less debt, what their promises are doing is saying, hey, half of what we promised in savings is going to be soaked up by our new programs going forward. So really not a big reduction at all. We're not getting spending in check. The Conservatives, their idea is to adopt a responsible and measured approach to balancing the budget over the next 10 years. And we thought, well, as opposed to what? As being irresponsible? I mean, why even say it? You should be responsible with our money, no matter who you are. And ultimately, we don't even know what that means. They want to reduce the debt by 90% by repairing the economy. But again, what does that mean? Anecdotes mean nothing. And NDPs, they want to ensure long-term fiscal finances are fiscally sustainable, something of that sort. Not one party has a plan here, but don't worry, we'll just print more cash, even though things will cost more. Look away, nothing to see here, folks. Ultimately, you got to make decisions that are best for you and your family, for your wealth strategy going forward. And you have to be common sense. This is the time to say, to hell with the regular systems, to hell with the traditional investments that I've made. Yeah, they've made me money here and there, but I have to be well diversified. Have an insurance policy, a plan B. Add these quality assets like gold and silver to your portfolio now while you still can at these cheap prices.
And we're going to get to down to brass tacks as far as how to attain some of those and get them into your portfolio very shortly. 1-888-335-8645, deltaharbor.com. Harbor with the U is how you reach out. Maybe because it's kind of a dry topic, but it seemed like debt and deficit made up a small portion of their platforms, really. Housing, on the other hand, is that's the elephant in the room, an issue here in Canada. What seemed like a great thing maybe 2 years, 2.5, 3 years ago now becomes a realization that 9 out of 10 people can no longer afford a new home, never mind rent something. So what happens with housing, right?
Well, no real answers there either, John. I mean, you got to look at that from the perspective of what happened in 2008. Subprime might be called subprime. It might look and feel different, but the reality is that risk is here for us too, because now we're taking on more debt than ever. Our debt ratios as it relate to our houses are bigger than they've ever been. People are taking way more debt to buy a house now than they ever have before. And a little simple balancing of the interest rates in an environment where they expect recession, it tells us historically that interest rates have to go higher because they are the only tool that we can use to control and get spending in check and encourage people to reinvest in the economy. So if interest rates aren't at 4, 5, 6% when recession hits and they're down at 2%, they've got nowhere to go. You know, we can reduce interest rates down to zero. But as the rest of the world is showing us, there are several economies around the world in Europe and other places where the net outcomes have been negative interest rates. So you're putting your money in the bank and you're paying the bank.
Nice.
And people laugh at it and say, how could that be? It's happening all over the world right now as we speak. Lots of people call your relatives overseas. And in Europe, there's many places over there where when you put $10 in the bank, $1,000, $10,000, at the end of the month, it's worth a lot less and there's no fees. You just put it into a savings account because they're actually paying negative interest rates. They're that scared and that worried. Yet we're hearing the opposite. Analysts are telling us, bank managers telling, hey, look, we look good. We look like a post-COVID boom, all this pent-up buying demand. We're going to see GDP numbers rise. We didn't. We just saw a contraction, unexpected, but it happened nonetheless. So no real answers here, John. We didn't hear them talk about removing the red tape during this opportunity for them to do so. That's the biggest problem with the housing sector in Canada. Of the G nations, we're the weakest when it comes to the amount of houses we build. So why I like O'Toole's platform, let's get 1 million houses built, which is far above the normal average over the next 3 years. To do that, we have to remove red tape. Ultimately, that's the goal. Liberals had no real ideas other than to spend more, to balance it differently, to take a bit of money here and slush it over to there. They talked about introducing the first home savings account, tax-free up to $40,000. What the hell is $40,000 going to do? What is that? You got to pay $1.5 million to buy a detached home in the GTA. What the hell is $40,000 going to do for me? Nothing. It's useless. They talked about $1 billion in grants and loans for rent-to-own projects. Okay, let's benefit the developers. Great. How does that benefit me, the home buyer? Right? They were talked about the home insurance, right? The CMHC premiums to 25%. That's not a good idea, right? That's not a good idea whatsoever. There's all kinds of ideas there, anecdotes, but the Conservatives are the one I like the most. And I didn't even pay attention to NDP because their anecdote was, let's end homelessness. Like, it's an easy thing, right? Their idea is to spend. It's not very well thought out. And, for me, we missed the opportunity to talk about all this red tape problem that needs to be removed in the housing situation. Again, uncertainty. It rules the day. This is what we're going into. John, we got to own gold and silver to help us balance our wealth strategy going forward.
Going to take a quick break. I want to summarize that article you brought with you. You mentioned at the top of the show, Darren, first, so we got to get some numbers out there and get to a break. 1-888-335-8645 to reach out to Darren and the team at Delta Harbour, and online to deltaharbour.com as well. That's Harbour with a U. We'll continue Hard Money on Sauga 960. Welcome back. This is Hard Money. Darren Long is here. John Scholes alongside. You want to reach out to Darren's entire crew and get started on this venture as, expanding your portfolio with some hard assets, physical silver, physical gold, undervalued and ready for you to take advantage of it at all times, especially now in this uncertain times for sure. You want to reach out, at least have a chat if you're a little gun shy. 1-888-335-8645 and deltaharbour.com. Darren, you did mention at the top of the show an article that from a colleague, and it discusses silver. I know your favorite metal for sure, but break it down for us. What exactly did it talk about?
Well, in the first part of the show, we talked about the idea of what's been going on in the debates. What are the platforms? What's being said? How does this fix the problems? What are the solutions being offered by each potential leader? And in summary, I mean, basically, we're looking at high debt, more spending, higher taxation, no matter what way we slice it, and the threat of recession being real moving forward. Because if we have to tax more, there's less to be spent on our economy. There's less opportunity for growth. And then the idea of red tape, a lot in the way and in every facet of the government. So we need less legislature, less bureaucracy, and we need more control over our purchasing power, more control over our wealth, more opportunities for us to grow that wealth. And so when I find articles like the one I brought today, this article I brought with me, it's called If Silver Could Talk, What She Told Me When I Wrote to Her. It's written by a colleague of mine named Jeff Clark, who's a senior precious metals analyst in industry. He's worked for all kinds of people around there. His in particular works with Mike Maloney. And he basically penned a nice article which talks about my favorite metal. And the breakdown of this article is really simple. He made 4 important points that I would like to discuss here right now. One, he says, I wrote to silver, and I, I'm a big fan, silver. Your industrial uses in our modern society are exploding, and you've been money for as long as records have been kept. It's hard to imagine your monetary value losing stature, especially when I look at the abject destruction of our currency by central bankers and politicians today, which is why it's amazing to me that you're so unappreciated in the present. And he goes on to say, is your price weakness almost over, or is it here to stay? And then Silver writes back to him, John, and this is what Silver says. And it's called the polite response from Silver. Number 1, Jeff, I am money no matter what anybody says. I have no counterparty risk or default risk. I can't be created out of thin air and thus depreciated like paper currency. I am private and discreet. Yes, you may have to pay taxes on any gain you make on me, but if you want some privacy or confidentiality, I can provide that. I'm also more practical than gold. I am more affordable to buy for investment purposes. I am more practical to sell. If you have a small financial need, just sell a few ounces of me instead of gold, since I come in smaller denominations. I've been used in coinage more often than gold. And let's not forget, historically, the very first gold standard of the US was a bimetallic standard, which include both gold and silver. So there is that history there. Point 2, he says, she says in writing back to Jeff Clark, I am dirt cheap and I have life-changing upside potential. This is what we talk about with silver all the time. Physical bars of silver being put away, stashed, stacked, whatever you want to call it, stored with Delta Harbour at an extremely cheap price. It's half of its 1980 high. All the other precious metals, all the other types of commodities around it have all doubled, tripled, quadrupled, even quintupled in price since 1980's last big bull market. But here, Silver writes back to Jeff saying, here's proof. First, in relation to the stock market, I'm actually cheaper to buy now relative to the S&P 500 than I was during the depths of the Great Recession. He includes a chart, which we'll try to put up if we can. And he says, to simply match my price relative to the stock market in 2011, the ratio between silver and the S&P would have to trade nearly 8 times higher than it does today. It would have to rise a whopping 89 times to match the 1980 peak. So that means silver would have to go $24 times $89 in order to match its peak in relative terms to what it did in 1980. Wow. And to me, John, that just makes simple sense, right? We do the math in relation to where it's been. Gold has gone multiple times higher than it did in 1980. Still represents good value, by the way. But silver goes on to say to Jeff in its response, I'm also the only asset that has never returned to its 1980 high. This makes me perhaps the most undervalued investment that can be bought on the earth today. Last, my ratio to gold, which we've talked about over the years, today is twice what it was in 2011, meaning I would have to double gold's advance just to match that level. And as many fans know, the gold-silver ratio hit 16 to 1 in 1980. What would amount to me gaining over 4 times more value than gold today and right now? So ultimately, he's saying, look, I know that it's been a tough 10 years. Silver writes back to Jeff in his response, don't worry, I'm dirt cheap right now. Own me. This is the time as an investor for you to buy me. The third point he talks about, John, in this article is that the next spike is inevitable. So we talked about the problems. We summarized those issues. We're going into a vote. We're uncertain of what our economy is going to be in 4 or 5 years from now. Tons of debt, lots of real world issues. We don't throw out our entire traditional investment strategy. We keep it and we add to it. But the next spike is inevitable. And it says, I quote, "As you and your friends know, my price tends to spike a lot and not just a little. In fact," Silver writes back to Jeff saying, "there have been 12 price spikes since the 1970s and 6 since 2004. Each price spike has averaged 150% or more."
Wow.
So ultimately, from where we are right now, the expectation is, in accordance to what we've seen traditionally, that the next spike will take silver 150% higher than it is right now, which means essentially we would see the price move into the $60+ range the next time it spikes, setting up to do that right now. And the last point on this article, John, before we go to break, is that there is ultimately going to be a launch pad from which silver launches from. And this is where it's basically saying to Jeff, Silver saying to Jeff, "I'm ready to do that. I've been ready for 10 years. How long can I sit here at these low prices? We don't know, but it could be triggered tomorrow. Tomorrow we could wake up, the price of silver would be $28, $29, $30, $32. Nobody would blink an eye in the industry. We certainly wouldn't. And it would happen overnight because silver inevitably does price spike. So buy it while it's cheap, get into the market. And essentially that's what this article was saying. And so ultimately I thought it was a good way to kind of introduce people to silver, what it's doing, what its expectations were, John, and to take people to the next level, to get this into their wealth strategy, and to read things like this really is just a bit of insight on what we're doing.
It's a good thing, in this stage of the show to look ahead to what silver potentially could be doing the next little while is encouraging. I mean, if that's not enough incentive, at least to reach out and start and open up your portfolio with you guys, I don't know what else would be. But after the break, I want to go the other way. I want to look back to the difference, the way things have changed since you started in this business way back in 2004 there, old guy. So we'll do that and discuss some of those points, and then how to get this portfolio for yourself happening with these physical metals. First, got to take a short pause. 1-888-335-8645, the number to reach out anytime, and deltaharbor.com, Harbor with the U, and of course the YouTube channel. Lots of good stuff on there for you to take your time and watch some of these informative video casts as well. youtube.com/Delta Harbor. We'll continue. More hard money is on the way. This is Sauga 960. All right, welcome back. Hard Money. Darren Long here again. John Scholes Weekly. Love you joining us and learning and get excited about this investment opportunity. If you have not taken advantage of it over the last, 5,000 years that gold and silver have been in the market, now might be a good time to at least investigate, right? 1-888-335-8645 and deltaharbor.com. We don't have to go back to Mesopotamian times, Darren, but at least back to 2004, and give us a little insight how you think. I know you keep wicked notes and wicked records on your side about how things have changed since you got in this market back in 2004. How does it look by comparison?
Well, 2004 is an important year, and I say that because it's the year I started in the industry. And it seems like a long time ago, but ultimately, because of the enjoyment I've had and the smiles on the face of the people that we've put into the market, it has gone by very quickly. But ultimately, if we look back, the challenge that I'm faced with sometimes in introducing people to silver and gold, John, is, why? Silver and gold, really? So many questions about, is it a value, really? I mean, isn't that something that's jewelry, or, how do you sell it? What's it? Is it bars, coins? What is it? So many questions about it without really asking the poignant question, which is, does it make people money?
Right.
Is it worth owning long term? So I wanted to say, okay, well, if I had been an investor and I made a simple purchase, listen, I did no buying and selling. In 2004, I decided I'm going to add some gold and silver to the portfolio. What does that look like today? All right. Boom, bust, big, huge cycles up, down. Silver, as we said in the last segment, many, many quick bursts in price and many points where it peeled off. But I've done no buying and selling. I merely put money into the market and let it sit. What does it look like? All right. Gold back in 2004 when I started was $380 US paper price. Silver was $5.50. Gold's now $1,800. Silver's now $24. So gold has risen 370+%, while silver has risen 330+%. So since 2004, gold's average yearly cumulative gain works out to about 22% per year. If I do the same math with silver, silver's average cumulative gain over the last 17 years is about 20+%. So if you are listening, please think about this. About 90% of those that invest in anything are investing primarily in stocks, real estate, and interest-bearing instruments, GICs, bonds, things of that nature. However, about less than 2% right now, despite the fact that these assets have risen 300+% over the last 17 years, less than 2% of the investing public own physical gold and silver, or paper for that matter, right now. We reach thousands of readers and potential owners of gold and silver on a monthly basis, John, yet this is minuscule compared to the 70+ million investors in the US and Canada alone. My point is simple, John. We summarize what's been happening with this leadership debate, how it impacts gold and silver over this show. We talked about this article, silver being undervalued. This is my favorite metal. We've talked about this, ad nausea. But if you as an investor are listening to this show and you are looking for an undiscovered asset category to bulk up your wealth, to give you return over the long term, and to be able to put your head down on a pillow at night and sleep soundly, knowing that your regular traditional value of investments, package of investments, portfolio, whatever you want to call it, is going to continue to do well with an insurance policy or plan B, then silver and gold fit the bill. That's ultimately what we're talking about.
You mentioned demand for silver. The question is, where's it coming from? Because you got to think that in itself sets the stage for people to understand why the future is so bright. Right, when it comes to silver as a metal, an opportunity for owning it's amazing if you're buying right now at these prices, which you should get on. Right.
Yeah, so we talk about that, and that's another reason why we're amazed that silver is undervalued. That article we brought up today didn't certainly talk about that, but from a demand perspective, first and foremost, the equation for silver is simple. The demand is coming from industrial. There are more patents pending for industrial silver usages today than any other precious metal in existence. And even if you combine them all together, silver has more patents pending. It's used in almost anything that we touch that is electronic, from our tablets to our computers, servers, cell phones, our TVs, LCDs, plasmas, OLEDs, all the different TV types, microwaves, ovens, fridges, all of the technology we use, smartphones, everything we touch, including our vehicles moving forward, the switches we turn on and off, the technology I'm using to record this show, all of it has silver in it. It is unbelievable. And that list goes on and on and on. So it doesn't even matter if tomorrow we wake up, it's recession, boom, bust. It doesn't matter. In the next 10 years from now, we're going to run out of silver. And when we do, in order to get even an ounce of silver, we're going to be talking about prices that are astronomically higher. Could be more than what gold is even worth at some point. We don't know. It's used as an antibacterial agent in bandages and to promote a speedier recovery in burn victims. They even have bandages now that when moistened, create a small enough electrical reaction that they work better to repair damaged skin in wounds now in clothing. It's used in solar technology, John. How many countries in the next 10 years, and we talk about the leadership debate, how many countries in the next 10 years are going to be converting to solar technology? I mean, it's already going to be something that's dramatically different in the next 4 or 5. We're going to be talking about green technology, electric cars. It's in every single battery that goes into an electric car. So this is a revolution, an evolution. The developments happening in these fields with EV technology and the batteries that go with them and solar technology, this all involves silver, all of it. Military usages, I hate bringing them up, but again, they all involve silver. There is no smart bomb out there that doesn't include silver in the head of that bomb. I hate bringing it up, but it's the truth. In fact, we look at that and we say, okay, how that alone wouldn't spike price? Who knows? Any guess out there is probably good as mine. But again, we're seeing all this chaos in the world. It involves that. It's being used as a wood preserver. It's as a catalyst. It's in bearings. It's in jewelry. The list goes on and on and on. And there's a relatively small supply, John. So ultimately, silver's in everything we touch. That's why I love it. the demand side. It's huge. It's not going anywhere. It's going to push the price much higher over the next 10 years.
Last minute, literally, just tell us quickly how they can reach out and get some of this into their portfolios, even registered accounts, right?
Go to the website, consultation, 30 minutes or less, just a few minutes to ask questions. We'll set you up. Open up an account, fund your account, take home delivery. Put it in storage, safe storage, class 3 vaulting facility, fully insured, buying and selling by phone. You can go visit your product that's in your name. You can use a bit of financing. We have up to 80% financing available for those that want to finance their purchase. And ultimately, you can put it into your registered accounts, TFSAs, RSPs. We will show you every step of the way how to do it. We'll be supportive. It's all about you at Delta Harbour. When you walk away, you need to feel that you are the most important thing to us, and we will stop at nothing to make you feel that way. It's the way it should be when it comes to your wealth. DeltaHarbor.com.
And we are done for another day. It's all about investing and education. So make sure you reach out first before you move forward. Talk to Darren and his crew. 1-888-335-8645. And yeah, DeltaHarbor.com. We'll catch you next time on Hard Money. This is Sauga 960.